The last time the National League won an all-star game, I still had brown hair. The hair is gray now, but the National League is back in the win column with a 3-2 win in the all-star game. We'll talk about the Dodgers' influence on that game, both current Dodgers and past Dodgers, and maybe future Dodgers. We'll talk about Shohei Ohtani's comments about Mookie Betts and how much he loves him. And I will give some of my thoughts on how I would tweak All-Star Week if I was, in charge, like I should be. Hashtag Jeff for commissioner. That's what's on tap. So let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. Or even better, go and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. Then you can be an everydayer just like we are. If this is your first time with us, I am Jeff Snider. My normal co-host is Vince Samperio, although it's just me for one more night or morning this week. Vince is covering the All-Star game in Seattle and then heading to Miami. Hopefully it'll be Vince and me together for the last 2 days this week. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like you are. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. And there's a lot of perspective on our boys in blue to have today because the All-Star game was last night. The National League finally won a game, 3-2. It was a tight one, but they've lost some tight ones. They hadn't won a All-Star game since 2012, which is also the last year the Dodgers didn't make the playoffs. Let's hope this isn't a harbinger of things to come in that regard. But yeah, it had been a long time since the National League won. They were down 2-1. It looked like Lourdes Gurriel had hit a game-tying home run off his former teammate Jordan Romano. That home run was overturned on replay. It was barely foul. And so they lost that scoring opportunity. But an inning or two later, Elias Diaz, who plays for the Rockies, kind of only a starting catcher because the Rockies are bad. He's not a bad player, but it's an interesting, he made the All-Star team because the Rockies had to have an All-Star representative. And he came up as a pinch hitter and he had a 2-run home run and puts the National League ahead for good. He wins the All-Star game MVP. Huge, awesome moment for Elias Diaz. I hope that what I was just saying about him wasn't construed as me not like him. Nothing but love for Elias Diaz. I'm happy for him. It's just funny how the All-Star game goes sometimes, that the guys who barely made it or maybe even shouldn't have made it end up having a huge impact sometimes. He hit the home run off of Felix Bautista, who is lights out closer for the Orioles, big, huge monster, and just didn't have it. He walked walked two guys, gave up the 2-run homer. Rough night for Bautista and a huge night for Elias Diaz. So the Dodgers had an impact on this game at different times. The National League's first run was scored by JD Martinez. JD went 2 for 2, got hits his 2 times up, a single and then a double. After the double, he was driven in by Luis Ariz, who also went 2 for 2 and drove JD in to tie the game at the time, tie the game 1-1. That was it for JD. He was out of the game after that. His spot in the lineup was where Elias Diaz was later pinch hitting for Jorge Soler, I think. So that spot ended up going 3 for 5 with a single, double, and a homer, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored. Pretty productive cleanup spot, I must say. Freddie Freeman hit what would have been a home run in 5 stadiums, would have been a double in most stadiums in the first inning, but Randy Arozarena made a really, really nice play to rob him of extra bases. Wouldn't have been a home run, but it would have been a double if Arozarena hadn't caught it. The previous batter, Ronald Acuna, had hit basically a mirror image of fly ball to right field where Arozarena's best friend, Adolis Garcia, was playing. Garcia's catch was equally nice, although not as graceful. Garcia was battling the sun, and so it would have been a more routine out if not for the sun. But because of the sun, Garcia had to make a really nice play on it. So Garrett Cole kind of got a little bit lucky in that first inning as the starting pitcher for the American League. Mookie Betts went 0 for 2, and he grounded out and then struck out. That was it for him. Will Smith came in as a sub, caught the last half of the game, flied out his first time up, and then walked and stole a base his second time up. Didn't score, stole the base off his old buddy Kenley Jansen. Somehow Will Smith seemed to have an inkling that Kenley Jansen is easy to steal on. Although I was watching a game this last weekend, a Red Sox game, and Kenley pitching and Connor Wong, who went from the Dodgers to the Red Sox in the Mookie Betts trade, catching, and they actually threw dude out at second trying to steal. So maybe Kenley has worked on that. He definitely wasn't working on it in this. Smith stole second base standing up without a throw. Could have picked Kenley's pocket and stolen third too. With 2 outs, there was no need to. And Smith, I think I saw, became just the third catcher ever to steal a base in the All-Star game. That's a big deal. Overall, base stealers were 1 for 3 on the night because Sean Murphy threw out Randy Arozarena trying to steal, and then Jonah Heim threw out Luis Arraez trying to steal. And so Will Smith was the only successful stolen base in this game. That's what wheels do. But there are some former Dodgers too. In the National League, you had nothing in the lineup, but on the mound, Josiah Gray, who went from the Dodgers to the Nationals in the Max Scherzer Trey Turner trade. JoJo pitched. I shouldn't call him JoJo. I remember hearing that he only likes his friends to call him that. I'm not his friend, although he has been on this podcast. But Josiah pitched an inning, struck out a dude, 1-2-3 inning, looked really good. And then former Dodger Craig Kimbrel got the save. He walked 2 guys, had the tying run on second and the winning run on first, but he struck out Jose Ramirez to end the game. Kimbrel, who was nothing like an all-star in his 1 year with the Dodgers, he's pitched better with the Phillies, although we saw him give up the walk-off grand slam to Max Muncy a month and a half, 2 months ago. But yeah, Kimbrel has had a bounce-back season of sorts, made the all-star team, got the save. It's actually his first save in an all-star game, despite being an all-star many times and a closer for his entire career. So that was exciting for him. National League West, you had Elias Diaz, the MVP. The win went to Giants pitcher Camilo Doval. Josh Hader of the Padres got a hold, and then Kimbrel got the save. So National League West and Dodgers represented there. On the American League side, again, nobody offensively, I don't think. Corey Seager, former Dodger Corey Seager, got 1 at bat, went 0 for 1. Future Dodger Shohei Ohtani also went 0 for 1 with a walk. And then two former Dodgers pitched for the American League side too. I mentioned Kenley Jansen pitched. He pitched just a third of an inning. He came in after Felix Bautista struggled. And Kenley, although he allowed the strikeout or the stolen base to Will Smith, he also struck out whoever was up next after Smith on 3 pitches. Lourdes Gurriel, I think. And then the other former Dodger for the American League was Nathan Eovaldi, who he's famous in Dodger circles because he's the one who gave up the home run to Max Muncy in the 18th inning of Game 3 of the 2018 World Series to end that game. But before that, Eovaldi was a Dodger. He started his career with the Dodgers, went to the Marlins in a trade, maybe the Hanley Ramirez trade. I can't remember for sure. But Eovaldi was a Dodger at the beginning. He pitched in this game. And I'm going to talk a little bit in the last segment about Eovaldi a little bit more, because one of the things I enjoyed about this game was while he was on the mound. So Dodgers definitely represented well at this All-Star game. Obviously Clayton Kershaw was an All-Star, but was not on the active roster because of his injury. But 5 Dodgers there, a lot of former Dodgers there, a couple future Dodgers there, and exciting stuff. One of those future Dodgers, as I mentioned, Shohei Ohtani. I'm going to come back in a minute. I'm going to talk about Shohei's comments after he was out of the game about Mookie Betts, because it makes some of us Dodger fans who want Shohei Ohtani on the team a little bit excited. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Look, let me tell you something about Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs, they are shorts. They have pants too, khaki pants, but the shorts is what I love. They are like Lululemon, except fit better, look better, more comfortable. Basically, everything that Lululemon could be better. You're thinking of Bird Dogs right now. They make you look so good. I don't have them myself. I am not yet down to a size that will fit into Bird Dogs. I'm looking forward to that. My son has a couple pairs. He's 16 years old. He's, interested in looking good, as teenage boys are. And he loves the way his Bird Dogs fit. He loves the way they feel. He's told me how comfortable they are and how just amazing they are. He says his butt looks good in them. And, I'm not checking out my son's butt, but I know the shorts look good on him. I've mentioned this before. When we went to my daughter's graduation, I told my son, hey, dress up nice. He threw on a polo shirt and his Bird Dog shorts. He looked awesome. Looked like he was dressed up for a special occasion, but he felt like he was just lounging around because they are so comfortable. Look, if you haven't tried Bird Dog shorts, you gotta. And if you go to birddogs.com/lockedonmlb, enter promo code LockedOnMLB for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedonmlb or promo code LockedOnMLB for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. All right, I am back. I want to thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Also want to remind you, when the Dodgers start their season back up on Friday with the 3-game series in New York against the Mets, you can catch every game, the Hometown Dodgers radio feed on SiriusXM or the SXM app. All you got to do is launch the app, search for Dodgers. And you can also listen to this podcast on the SXM app by searching for Locked On Dodgers. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the YouTube comment section. If you're listening on the podcast, I'd love to hear from you through social media or email or whatever. I'll give you all that contact info at the end, like I always do. And I want to thank you everydayers, those of you who are with us every weekday morning. It's only about a half hour every weekday morning. Our goal is to have it fit into your commute. So thank you everydayers. If you're not an everydayer, it's really easy to join the club. Just watch or listen every day. It's great. Listen on your way to work. When you get to work, sit on your computer and turn on the YouTube and watch it. And then on the way home, launch the SXM app and listen to it on there too. Everybody wins. So thank you, everydayers. Shohei Ohtani, obviously, as the Angels fall out of contention, it's a big talk. What's going to happen with Shohei Ohtani? He's a free agent at the end of this year. He's not going to re-sign with the Angels. And so it would make a lot of sense for the Angels to trade Ohtani at the trade deadline, which is coming up only about 3 weeks away. And the question is, will they? And if they do, to where? And then the follow-up question is, then in November, he's a free agent. And where does he go when it's up to him? And the answer to both of those questions, where will he go at the trade deadline and where will he go when it's up to him? The answer to both of those questions could be the Dodgers, because the Dodgers, in putting together a trade package, have one of the deepest farm systems, maybe the deepest farm system in baseball, to put together a good package for him. I saw somebody the other day mention the Dodgers could trade their top 5 prospects for Shohei Ohtani, and they would still have more prospects in the top 100 than 17 teams. Obviously, the Dodgers aren't going to trade their top 5 prospects, and it's all a cost-benefit analysis. There's a decent chance that Ohtani won't get traded because Artie Moreno and the Angels are going to want a king's ransom for Ohtani, because if they trade him, even just attendance for the last 2 months of this season, it's just going to tank. Mike Trout is out with no Ohtani. It's a hopeless season at that point. So it would be a killer for the Angels. So they have to decide, is those 2 months of attendance and excitement worth whatever we would get for him in trade? Because they're not going to get anything for him other than a compensation pick when they lose him in free agency. But that's all neither here nor there. Eventually, Shohei Ohtani will get to choose where he wants to play. And somebody asked Ohtani after the game, which player from the All-Star game impressed him the most? And he said, not just today, but just watching guys overall, I feel like Mookie Betts really impresses me. He's so versatile. He can play the outfield, play the middle infield. I think he's very, very talented. And obviously the feeling is mutual there. Mookie is a huge fan of Ohtani. we can't read too much into what a player says. Anybody who's met Mookie Betts, who's seen Mookie Betts play up close, is going to be impressed by him. So that doesn't mean the same thing as I want to be on his team or I will be on his team. But you know what? It's got to help, right? Like Ohtani wants to win. We know he wants to win. Well, Dodgers have made the postseason 10 straight years. They've won the division 9 of those years. Winning is what the Dodgers do and what they plan on doing for the long-term future. He wants to go somewhere where he's comfortable. You know what? He's been in fake LA. Being in real LA wouldn't be that much different. And he's friendly with Mookie. Everybody's friendly with Freddie Freeman. Like the Dodgers are a really good environment. In addition to the winning, like I feel like Ohtani could be really happy there. Obviously, I'm a Dodger fan, and so I'm biased, and some of it's wishful thinking. I'm okay with that. I can acknowledge that. Doesn't mean it's not true. Maybe it means there's a slight chance that it's not true, but doesn't mean it's not true. And as we've talked before, our buddy Pat Dwyer had told us, we talked about this a few weeks ago, about the time zone thing. Because of Japan, the West Coast is the best place for Ohtani as far as people in Japan being able to watch his games. And so that's something worth noting, that he might have more visibility in Japan if he's playing for the Dodgers, or the Angels or the Giants or the Mariners. The Mariners fans were chanting, "Come to Seattle," at Ohtani, which, everybody wants Ohtani. Freddie Freeman said it during the game. Freddie and Mookie were mic'd up at the same time, and Joe and John Smoltz were talking to them. It was during the "Come to Seattle" chants while Ohtani was up. And Joe asked Mookie and Freddie if they want to start a chant of their own. And Freddie joked that would be tampering. But he said, safe to say that all 30 teams would love to have Shohei Ohtani. And that's the truth. I've said it before, and I really believe it the more I think about it. I'm not convinced that Shohei Ohtani will go to the team that offers him the most money. I don't think he's going to give any huge discounts, but I don't think he will necessarily go with the highest offer, because there's so much more. For one thing, Shohei's sponsorship endorsement deals are going to eclipse his baseball salary no matter where he goes. And so the money he's going to make in endorsements will be so much more than his salary. It's going to be a rounding error. And whatever he gets, it's going to be huge money. So we're not thinking about how much money he can make. And that really it's going to come down, for a lot of these players, it comes down to a feeling of obligation to the other union members, it's Shohei's responsibility. It's every free agent's responsibility to get the biggest contract possible, because that helps other union members in their free agency later get as much money as possible. Even that, though, doesn't apply to Ohtani as much, because there are no other players like Ohtani. And so nobody's going to go into free agency with Shohei Ohtani as their comp. Now, Juan Soto, plenty of guys are going to go into free agency with Juan Soto at least setting the bar. Even if he's not a true comp and they're going to be below it, Juan Soto will be the bar for them that their salary will be based on. Shohei Ohtani is a unicorn. Nobody is going to be based on him, so he doesn't have that same union pressure even. And my last thing on that is the endorsements. Ohtani, I believe, will make more money in endorsements if he's in either LA or New York. I guess Chicago too, maybe. One of these huge markets, Ohtani will be most valuable on the endorsement sponsorship market. And so talking about how most of his money is going to come from those endorsements anyway, he could take less money from the Dodgers and more than make up with that with the increase in sponsorships. So, and I know, I acknowledge I'm a Dodger fan, and that's why I do a podcast about the Dodgers. I love the Dodgers. No, I'm not pretending to be a journalist here. I'm not pretending to have a scoop. I say at the beginning of every episode, I'm not an insider. I'm not quite an insider. It's the smart fan's perspective, and fan is just as important as smart in that sentence. I want Shohei Ohtani on the Dodgers, and honestly, I want him to come for a reasonable contract so that the Dodgers can continue to build a winner around him, and the Dodgers can be successful. He can be successful. He can win a World Series or 10 and get tons of money in endorsements, all that good stuff. That's what I want. And the fact that Shohei loves Mookie doesn't hurt their chances. That's all I'm saying. I'm going to come back in just a minute. I'm going to talk about some tweaks that I would make to the All-Star game if things were up to me. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. And please continue to keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Excuse me. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp, there's a misconception about therapy. A lot of people think that there has to be some huge event, a huge trauma, a huge problem in your life for you to benefit from therapy. That's not true. Now, you can benefit from therapy if there is a huge event in your life, a huge trauma, a huge problem, but it's not just for those things. It could be as simple as you're struggling with making decisions in your life. You're feeling stuck. And whether it's employment, I don't like my job, but it would be hard to find a new job. And would it be worth it? I'm comfortable where I am. Those kind of decisions, sometimes just having somebody to talk through, a professional who knows what they're doing, can help you get on track, make your decisions. They're not going to make your decisions for you. They can help give you the tools to be ready to make the right decisions for yourself. Sometimes it is, an emotional thing where you need help, and talking can help with that. There are so many benefits of therapy, even for somebody who hasn't had a huge life-changing event. And I promise you that if you think about it, there's a decent chance. I think a lot more people could benefit from therapy than are currently in therapy right now. So if you're ever thinking of starting therapy, you should give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you do is just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. All right, I am back. I want to thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. I want to remind you one more time, when the season starts back up on Friday, you can catch every Dodgers radio broadcast on SiriusXM or the SXM app simply by searching for Dodgers. You can also listen to this podcast on the SXM app, searching for Locked On Dodgers. And thank you again to our everydayers, those of you who are with us every day. We love you. We appreciate you. And we hope you will keep coming back and tell your friends and family. And last thing I want to talk about, All-Star Week has been great. There's been a lot of good stuff. The HBCU game, the first time they've done that was really cool. The Futures game is always really good. All the stuff related to the All-Star game, Monday, the Home Run Derby. You had the celebrity softball game after the Futures game on Saturday, and then the All-Star game itself. It's been great. Here's my one quibble. It's been hard to watch because they put a lot of this stuff, Monday and Tuesday, great. Home Run Derby, All-Star game, there's no conflicts, nothing else you'd rather be watching if you're a baseball fan. But the Futures game, celebrity softball game, those were on Saturday. And they were on, what were they on? Peacock, I think, which not everybody has. But, I understand streaming is the way the world's going. And I think if you're a baseball fan, you just got to suck it up and buy these streaming services. So I don't mind so much that it's on Peacock. I do mind that it's happening during major league games, because most people who care enough about baseball to watch the Futures game also love a particular team. And like me, I love the Dodgers. Have I mentioned that? I'm a big Dodger fan. Guess what? On Saturday, I watched the Dodgers. I watched highlights of the Futures game. I watched some clips of the celebrity softball game. But I was watching the Dodgers because that's the games that matter to me at that moment. And when I look at the upcoming schedule and see there's nothing going on Wednesday, there's nothing going on Thursday. Why did we do these things on Friday and Thursday and Saturday that could have been during these days where there's nothing going on. Those of us who love baseball are going to spend the next couple of days thinking, is it baseball season again yet? When do the Dodgers play? Hurry up. Imagine if we had these cool things like the Futures game and the HBCU game and the celebrity softball game to whet our appetite, let the players get their all-star break, give us some content to watch, some baseball to watch for the next couple of days. It's silly to me that the league continues to put those things up against actual major league games. Another tweak I would make, these uniforms, just go back to having the players in their team uniforms in the All-Star game. It was always that until just a couple of years ago. Like, why did they change it? I'll tell you why. Because it was a terrible idea. And Commissioner Fred Rodman, he likes terrible ideas. He is a big fan of them. He comes up with a lot of them himself. And when he hears one from somebody else, his eyes light up. He's like a kid in a candy store. Ooh, that's stupid. Let's do that. Ooh, that idea sucked. I like that. That's the only reason to do this. I don't mind having uniforms but that's for Monday. That's for the home run derby. These, league uniforms. When the game is being played, they should be wearing their team uniforms. That's how it was for 80 years, 90 years, whatever it's been. So it should be. I don't necessarily believe that things should never change, but there is no good reason to do what they did. And it takes away some of the specialness. It's fun to see, guys in different uniforms. Having Camilo Doval pitching to Will Smith as his catcher, Camilo Doval in his Giants uniform and Will Smith in his Dodgers uniform would be cooler than Camilo Doval in an ugly National League uniform pitching to Will Smith in an ugly National League uniform. Put the players back in their team uniforms for the game. And one thing I do want to say that I liked, which I don't normally like in-game interviews, especially with guys who are in the game. I've said before, the one in-game interview I love is when Joe and Oral are talking to Clayton Kershaw, because he has the rapport with them. He's open with them. He's super smart. He loves talking about baseball. I love those ones. Most in-game interviews, kind of boring. And when they're talking to players who are playing in the game, it's really, really hard for me because those players are trying to win a game and they're distracted by the mic. Now, what I love in the All-Star game is this game doesn't matter. Excuse me. This game doesn't matter. And so I like the interviews if they're done right. And that's why I mentioned I was going to talk about Nathan Eovaldi again. Eovaldi was pitching and he was mic'd up while he was pitching. And it was a little bit awkward at first because he walked a dude, gave up a hit. And it's like, I got runners on and you could tell he's getting stressed and he's flustered and upset. And I thought he was just going to rip the earpiece out. But then he got back into the groove. He's talking pitch selection with John Smoltz. It was a lot of fun. And then when Corbin Carroll came up and he's mic'd up too, so they can hear each other. So Eovaldi had to stop saying what pitches he was going to throw. He's talking to the batter's talking to him while they're battling. It was fun. The Mookie and Freddie interview was awesome. I'll take as much Mookie and Freddie content as I can get. Not all of the interviews hit, but they were good enough that I think it was a good recipe and they should kind of follow that. I thought it was funny that Josh Hader and Ozzie Albies were mic'd up together, and then Hader threw a 5-pitch inning, so they got about 8 words of interview in. So that was fun. But I thought that was good. Overall, I think baseball did a pretty good job. Other than the uniforms and putting the games at times that didn't make sense, I thought it was a successful All-Star week, a lot of fun to be a baseball fan. Well done, Major League Baseball, for the most part. And I'm excited for Friday and not sure what I'm going to do for the next couple of days because there's no baseball. But I will be here with you every morning because that's what we do here on Locked On Dodgers. We are everydayers. We hope you will be too. All you got to do is watch or listen every weekday morning. Remember, on Friday, when the Dodgers play the Mets and every Dodger game, you can catch the Dodgers radio feed on SiriusXM or the SXM app just by searching for Dodgers. You can follow us on Instagram and on Twitter at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog, and the DMs are open in all of those places. Our email address is lockedondodgers@gmail.com, and our phone number for voicemails or text messages is 323-863-LOCK-5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.